Let me start off because there's a couple of things to discuss here. But
Sure.
First of all, that clip that we saw at the top of Jen Psaki. I mean, you have reporters now beyond Fox News asking, "Is this a crisis now?" Do you think the fact that they're really standing firm on calling it a challenge instead of a crisis is perhaps blowing this up even more and making this worse?
It's becoming one of the most challenging crises they're going to face in the first days of this administration. Look, it's not a surprise. They relaxed the conditions that the previous administration had imposed, and the message is heard loud and clear in the Central American Triangle countries. The cartels say, "Hey, there's a business proposition here. The United States border is open. Let's get people up there." One of the things in your opening segment was so sad is the cartels are the ones who have operational control of our border. The United States does not.
And Congressman, if I can just pull up a few figures here, which are quite staggering, frankly. We have the number of COVID-positive migrants who were released into the U.S. since January. That is 108 cases last week, 185 reported Monday. That's almost 10% of everyone who was tested. And then 296,000 total migrants apprehended this fiscal year alone, including over 3,000 unaccompanied minors, 1,300 unaccompanied minors who were in custody for longer than the 72 hours allowed. And Governor Abbott saying yesterday that the U.S. is on track to receive over 1 million migrants this year alone. That shatters any previous record that we've seen over the last few years. Why is this? What's happening here?
Well, number one is because the advertisement that the border was open and just get there and you can come in. In fact, I think the statement was the first 100 days the new Biden administration is not going to be enforcing any regulations on the border. Look, if it's this bad in February, the figures were about 100,000 for February. It gets worse or it gets more pronounced as the weather gets warmer. So if it's 100,000 in February, it very likely could be 150 or 200,000 by the time we get to the month of May.
Wow. Clearly,
our systems are overwhelmed today, and you double those numbers, and what do you think you're going to get? Systems that are even more overwhelmed.
Yeah. What information are you getting, and what information are you not getting and would like to get about COVID-positive migrants, specifically in areas where this could really impact the people of your state?
Well, it could, and we've seen indications previously. The community spread in some of the communities along the border, whether it be El Paso, whether it be McAllen. The community spread has been an issue throughout the last year of this pandemic. This is going to make that likely more pronounced. But look, when we had the big debate over this massive bill that will be voted on later in the House today, I offered an amendment that said, look, let's at least do testing and provide personal protective equipment for people who are coming across the border. Not stopping them, just let's test them so we know whether or not they're COVID positive. Let's give them a N95 mask before we send them off into the country. And that was turned down by the Democrats. They didn't want any part of that. No, we're fine with the way things are. The Biden administration is handling this well, except that it's not. And the fact of the matter is many, many communities along the border and even further into the interior of Texas and the rest of the country are also going to be adversely affected.
Yeah, not to mention 800 people with criminal records also caught coming through. But Congressman, can I get your opinion on this move by the Pentagon, who have approved keeping 2,300 National Guard troops in D.C. through May the 23rd? Why? What do they know we don't? What is the threat?
I wish I knew. We did have a classified briefing earlier this week, or a security briefing. I can't tell you that I learned a lot new in that, but that's nothing new for a classified briefing. Typically, you go to a classified briefing and then you can read about it in the New York Times the next day. I don't know from where the request came. I presume it is from the Speaker of the House. Look, last week we were told we couldn't stay in Washington on March the 4th because the risk was too high, and yet the Senate was still in session voting, and the Vice President came to the Senate to break a tie. So let's be honest here. Is there a problem or is there not? Is there a problem so bad the House members have to be sent home, but the senators are kept in the chamber and the Vice President comes down to break a tie? On the face of it, this doesn't make any sense.